What would the cheat be for buyers that want a little bit of land, they have a couple of horses?
You have to have someone, a real estate agent. If you tried to go it on your own and not use a real estate agent, you could very well get sold a piece of land that wouldn't sustain your animals or wouldn't sustain the life that, or even your home.
Connie, show me your left hand.
I got my hand caught in the dally, so, like all good ropers do.
Hello, you're here today with Annette Caldwell, Avalon Real Estate, and Connie Casey-Bowlin. Connie and I go back 8 years now.
8 years.
8 years. We started in real estate together, and Connie was my farm and ranch guru. We're actually sitting at her place that keeps improving every time I come. I don't come often enough because I'll be put to work. But Connie has educated me on farm and ranch. She is the expert because she does all of the things. So you are usually on a mower, you're usually...
Yeah, well, there's always something to do on a ranch, that's for sure. If it's not taking care of the grass, it's taking care of cows or horses or donkeys. You can never have no job on a ranch, for sure. There's fences to be mended, animals to be tended.
And so you don't have a ranch hand, you are the ranch hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I see you in your overalls in the winter and you are mucking and this and that. And so what the beauty is with having Connie as a dear friend, lover of Jesus, is also, and every animal known to man. There is no stray that goes past Connie and I, much to her husband's demise, because she works on her own ranch, what needs to be on one when she's helping buyers.
Yes, for sure. A lot of common mistakes that I see other realtors make in the farm and ranch industry is a buyer will ask, how many gallons a minute does the well produce? And I would say 75% of the real estate listing agents have no idea. They're like, oh, well, we don't really know. We'll have to get back with you. And I would say that's probably a very important fact to know and to make sure that you understand where all the septic tanks are, where all the wells are they producing wells? How much do they produce? Are they for irrigation? Are they for livestock? Are they consumable? Can you drink them? Are they potable water? I've run across quite a few instances where oil fields, where they're drilling for oil, they pump water back into the holes and then the sodium contaminates the existing water around. So there's a lot that goes into knowing kind of that aspect, but as far as the rest of it, acreage and all, that's kind of fairly easy.
The relationship Connie and I have is both professional real estate and then personal, but we also refer business back and forth. She loves working with buyers on farm and ranch because she can tell you because she knows. So there is coastal hayfields, but tell them how husband's coastal hayfields work.
Well, you have to fertilize, you have to weed them, and there's certain times of the year that it's better to put pre-emergent on. Some people, they just go for a natural grass, but if you really want some producing coastal, you have to give it some love and care, that's for sure.
He knows when the grasshoppers are coming and what's going to be put down.
How much per square acre, how much it costs, and all of that has risen, as the gas prices rise. That affects every aspect of a farm. Food is so expensive at the grocery store. Well, it costs more money to ship that food from the farmer to the grocery store, so.
Well, and there's coastal because yours doesn't have a weed in it.
Oh, no, ma'am.
It looks like a golf course.
Well, we try. We fight the stickers just like everybody else.
Okay, so we all know that the market is shifting. We all know that it's a different day and a different market. So talk about that in farm and ranch.
Actually, it's been hit a little bit harder because, when you're talking about several acres, it drives the price of the property up. If you're talking above 50 acres, the price per acre went just in Eastland and Erath, just from 8 years ago in Erath, the property was basically somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000 an acre. And now in Erath, the property is somewhere between $12,000 and $13,000 an acre.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. And that's not improvements, no water, no electricity, any of that nature. And so what's shifted now, so for 3 years, we've had this huge growth, we have this huge influx of out-of-staters coming into Texas. And then now what we're seeing is that the homes in the neighborhoods are still selling because people need homes, but the farming and ranching, it's taken a little bit slowed process, you see a lot of price drops in them because the people that are buying them are basically cash buyers because the interest rates have just risen and risen and risen.
Well, and also what we've seen is, just like with residential farm and ranch, there are improvements and there are improvements. We've looked at properties before, you and I and your husband, where they have pre-fert, and you educated me on pre-fert panels and
Shoots.
yeah, and they weren't concreted in.
Right.
They were temporary.
Right.
And so there are improvements that add value, and there are personal, just like homes.
Right. Right.
So, for instance, if a round pin is made out of removable panels, well, that's not attached to your home. So in your contract, you have to make sure that all of those panels, all the corrals, anything that you can actually disassemble and take, that you specifically state that it does stay, or you'll come back and you'll have nothing.
Yeah.
So anything that is welded in place, of course, that's going to improve the value. Anything that's concreted, it's going to add square footage and taxes. That's the other thing, when you do finally get your dream place and you want to build a barn and you want to build a canopy and all of these things, every structure you add is going to add taxes to your property.
I'll be talking to her about a residential property or something, and she'll ask her husband, and they'll mentally calculate it really quickly what it's going to take, because her husband's in construction, commercial construction, what it would take to bring that up to sometimes livability. And some of a couple of the deals that we've done recently. But the improvements in farm and ranch are not always what the masses are looking for. And so sellers are still pricing, just like residential, they're pricing it based on what their idea, and we can't use the word value because we're not appraisers, but what their idea of what it's worth. It's not worth that to most farm and ranch people.
Well, even in a home, when you walk into a home, it's what your needs and wants are. Does it fulfill? Do you have 3 kids? Are there 3 bedrooms?
Yep.
In a ranch, do you have stalls? How many stalls? Do you have a round pen? Is there an arena? Are you a roper? Or do you barrel race? Is the ground good? Is it blow sand? Is it workable sand? Is it rock? Grass isn't going to grow in rock. So if you're looking in Bluffdale and you want an arena, you're going to have to drag your sand in. Look at when you're actually purchasing a farm and ranch.
Yeah, we just, for this filming, shut down end dump, I think, or belly dump, I didn't see, of gravel, because your husband was on the skid steer setting it. So people don't realize the value in having that.
Oh yes, that's called working smarter and not harder. If you can afford a skid steer, then you don't have to clean those stalls out by hand, and comes in handy dragging gravel. I mean, like I said, there is a job every day keeping up with your farm and ranch.
So we're on the cusp of ERATH. We're actually filming in Eastland. I'm just going to ask you the question. What are the benefits?
Well, we're right on the border of the Eastland, ERATH, and Comanche. We're kind of right in the corner of all 3. In fact, half of my taxes go to Eastland and my school taxes go to Comanche. However, when you put that down on paper and you start to pay your taxes at the beginning of the year, you see a large, large difference. In Eastland, I think our tax rate is about 1.6. And I'm not going to specifically state, but I think ERATH is somewhere hovering around 2. Could be a little bit less, but in terms of dollar amounts, I'm just going to be open on my property. I have about 50 acres here, 2 homes, a barn, arena, and my taxes run about $4,600 a year. In ERATH, comparably, I want to say they will be double, if not more.
So as a real estate farm and ranch professional, as you're showing buyers, there isn't anything you don't know because you're walking it. Any improvement they make, you can already say, you can do this. This is what the cost is going to be, because you know.
Right.
And then you also can say, based on this particular county, this is what you could expect. Now, we're not experts in all of those areas, but you really are, because you're walking.
Well, I mean, I pay my own taxes and I show enough properties that in different areas that I get familiar with all of the tax rates, and I pull a lot of the properties off the appraisals on the different county appraisal sites. And looking at all of those, location is where you want to be, right? So my location where I want to be is totally different than somebody else's location, right? What's important to me is to have privacy and to feel like I'm time out in the country. I mean, I love the city and I love going to Stephenville, but I also love coming home and having my seclusion and no traffic, that kind of thing. And so I think when I'm talking to my buyers, I ask them, you know, what's important to you? What do you value? What do you like? Do you like the hustle and bustle? Do you like being 5 minutes from H-E-B? It doesn't bother me to go into town and shop once every 2 weeks. So it's really just a preference, what you like and where you want to be located. And then you have to decide, A, can you afford it? Or B, do you have to maybe go a little farther out and get a little bit more for your money? It's totally up to you.
Well, and your expertise is from Colorado City all the way down San Antonio, Seguin. You are not Eastland, Erath.
No, I'm a native of San Antonio, Texas. My husband is a third generation in West Texas and Colorado City, Texas. We moved here. We've lived here now since 2014. I really cover a large span. I do stay out of areas that I obviously do not know anything about. Don't know anything about Houston. Don't know anything about Austin, Fort Worth, Dallas. But if it's anywhere in the San Antonio area, West Texas, or the Central Texas, I've got a good idea what you need and what you want, where you might find it.
Right, right. Connie, this is going to be a hard question because you and your husband do everything yourself. So it's a little bit hard. But what would the cheat be for buyers that want a little bit of land, they have a couple of horses? How would you professionally advise them on what to do and where to put their money?
Well, the first thing I would do is make sure that there was plenty of water available. Obviously, you have animals, and that's your utmost priority to make sure that they have a source of fresh water. And so you would think that being in Central Texas here that there wouldn't be places that there literally is no water. You can drill 7 wells in a 100-acre span and there's not a drop. Right. So you have to know your area and you have to have someone, a real estate agent. Basically, if you tried to go it on your own and not use a real estate agent and you're not that familiar with the area, you could very well get sold a piece of land that wouldn't sustain your animals or wouldn't sustain the life that, or even your home. Some of them, the wells, you know, they're 2 gallons per minute. Well, that right there requires you to get a big storage tank. You have to have a water storage tank system so that you'll always have water, you know, constantly bleeding into it so that you can run your home. But these are things that new to living in the country, you don't really have those insights to that kind of deal. Plus, you know, for me, I mean, I want to make sure that the ground is a good ground. I can grow grass, which I don't have to buy as much hay or alfalfa for my horses. Also, when I'm running them, I don't have to worry about injuries. You know, I have a nice soft arena. It's not too sandy where it's too deep and they get hurt and pull, you know, a muscle or a tendon or ligament, whatever. I mean, all of those are doctor bills, so you don't want that either.
Connie, I hate to interrupt you right now, but show me your left hand.
I got my hand caught in the dally. Like all good ropers do.
So February or March, I called you. First time home buyers, they wanted the American dream, they wanted Erath, they wanted land, and I called you, and it ended up being, I don't remember, Eastland or Erath County, but I could hear Hobie in the background saying, that's bottom land, blah, blah, blah. And
right.
So we collaborate.
Yes,
we're always collaborating.
For sure. My husband is a wonderful source of knowledge. He's been in a contracting business since 1983. He learned how to build houses in high school and knows every trade from the dirt work on up. So really, he's kind of like my in-house inspector. Not really. We still hire inspectors. I have to represent my buyers. He'll tell me, you need to steer them away from that, or, you know.
And we just did that a couple of months ago in De Leon, and it's just not good for my business sometimes.
No, but I'm not going to let somebody walk into a trap either.
Nope.
You know, that's not what I'm here for.
And I still use what he said. He wouldn't pay a dime over that house. I still, you know, use that
amount.
Because we're going to treat a real estate transaction as if we were doing it for our kids or ourselves.
Yes, for ourselves. It would be too heavy on my heart. Yep. And I couldn't sleep at night if I didn't steer someone the right way. I mean, I always feel like if it's meant to be and God wants you to have that property, it'll be smooth sailing. If He's got a different plan for you, then there'll be obstacles and there'll be things in your path that will guide you to where you really truly are supposed to.
And that is a true statement.
Right.
So, Connie, we share a lot in common. Could you talk for a minute or 3 or 10 about overservicing a client?
Oh, yes. And I will have to tell you that Annette is probably the queen of overservicing clients. What I mean by that is we both have been in this industry long enough now that, sometimes we take on a property or listing and it's an elderly person and they can't clean their home out, or they can't get the garage clean, or they live out of state and they're selling this property as a second home. I did a lake home. I had to go clean the whole entire shed out. A lot of times we go above and beyond and we don't charge anymore. We just want to help you. We want to help you get the best deal you can get, but we also want to be kind about it. It's a lot of work for us sometimes.
Our husbands get angry.
Yes, they do, because they say that, well, mine says that I'm the most terrible real estate agent there is because I'm not tough enough. He's like, you'll do anything. I'm like, I just want to help them.
I'm going to ask a pointed question. Did you roll a freezer of bad food out of the garage?
Yes.
And you weren't even representing that party.
No, I did not. The listing agent or the seller, she had forgot to turn the electricity off. They were transferring the electricity and she had an entire freezer full of maggoted meat that I had to pull out and empty and throw away and get out before the buyers could get in. And oh my goodness, that was definitely one to remember. I hope I never have to do that again.
Another thing we share in common is we worn heels once to a walkthrough, but we don't do that because we, just like living here at the ranch, you don't know what you're going to walk into. So we go in expecting whatever it is.
The worst, yeah. And you want to, especially on the initial visits, because a lot of times the property hasn't been maintained and the grass is tall. There could be snakes, there could be rats. I've run across possums, raccoons. I literally have probably come across just about everything you probably could. Spiders.
The Eastland Golf Course, nice community, nice house. You were mowing the lawn. You were cleaning the garage.
Yes.
You were painting.
Yes, I was doing everything, and I ran over I didn't kill them, but I did run over some little bunnies at the lawnmower, and I was like, oh no! But yes. So, we do above and beyond, and we just want to get the deal done too. We want to be helpful, we want to be kind. That person didn't happen to live in Eastland at the time. They lived in Midland, and they couldn't get over here, so I'll do just about anything to get the deal done.
Well, and it's not for the commission. It's just you and I share. We're not giving up. It's not done until it's over.
No, and I would want somebody to be my friend too. I think we're friends more than we are. In fact, every person that I've actually ever represented, either listing or buying, we still talk. We're still friends on Facebook. They still call me. Their families call me. It's not like I have advertisements to, hey, use me, I'm the best. It's word of mouth. And people say, oh, she'll go to the ends of the earth for you.
When we started,
You too.
Yeah, when we started at the same brokerage, 2016, and we would have meetings, and I won't go into too much detail, I don't want to disclose things, but one agent stood up and she was very, very upset because she said, these people want to be friends with me, they just keep calling after the deal, and I was mortified.
Oh, I know. I think you're just killing yourself. You're cutting your own throat here, and why are you in this?
Yeah.
I was a teacher for 18 years before I became a real estate agent, and the skills that I had in teaching just transferred, and my love of people and their families and wanting to know what they need, and it just kind of transcends. I think sometimes teachers are the best real estate agents.
And I, early on, there was 2 agents, one with that brokerage and another one in Kansas, because I started some training up in Kansas while my husband was working up there. So I asked each one of those teachers, what makes you so good in real estate? And I have an amazing Dublin real estate agent as well. But the talent that y'all have is, one, you've got a herd of kids. You've got parents that aren't really easy to work with. to say the least. You've got a principal you've got to satisfy,
Administration.
and then you've got lessons. You've got all of these balls that you're juggling at the same time, and real estate is exactly the same way.
Well, and the mediation factor, I mean, you're constantly mediating between the administration, the parents, and the children, and so you've got to have some kind of social skills to get everybody on the same page and the desired goal, the outcome.
If I were to do a farm and ranch transaction versus you, and we have all of those balls up in the air and we have a well issue, you know it intimately because you've lived it.
Right, right. And I know who to call and what to do and how long it's probably going to take. And the septic people, you have a list of providers, especially on a farm and ranch. You have to have well people, septic people, fertilizing people, grass people. I mean, just electricians. My husband is definitely a MacGyver. I'm so blessed and thankful for him. He can do 100% of everything, but not everybody has him.
Right.
You know, so you have to have that list of people. And I share as many contacts as I can to people who do good work.
Talking about our affiliates for a minute, we work with them. What happens when they don't have the integrity we have?
We get real frustrated real fast.
They're done.
Right, because we're really hard workers. I don't know anybody that works harder than Annette, trying to please her customers. And if she doesn't have the information, she's going to search for a week to find it for you. So, I mean, a lot of times I'm calling her at 10 o'clock at night. Annette, I need help. What do I do? You know, and most of the time it's a contract issue because she's so great at the fine details. And I mean, as much knowledge as I have in the overall picture, sometimes that's where I lack, is that the fine details. Yes, contractually.
But if I were to do a farm and ranch, I could do the contract. The contracts are different with residential.
Yes, for sure.
You know, when we first started, you introduced me to prefert. I think I'm all that and then some because I know the term prefert. You explained your layout here.
Right, right.
Again,
well,
today-
prefert is just the best in the business to me. And most that you can ask, we live in the cowboy capital of the world, and you're going to find prefert everywhere. And that just means that there's quality.
But back in the beginning, you and Hobie and I, we met Kyle, and we looked at that house, that ranch.
Right, right.
Whose was that again? It was a professional, but you knew what was temporary. It looked good to me.
It was Speed Williams. It was Speed Williams. He sold his home just right up the street in 16 right here going towards DeLeon. Of course, you know, he had the best of the facilities, and so I knew immediately, you know, exactly how much things cost. I knew that the round pin was probably upwards of $30,000. I mean, all of those things, when you're calculating a price to put on a listing, I mean, you're just constantly walking through and adding, okay, this is, you know, 100,000, this is 50,000, this is an awning for another 100,000. And so the more that you do this, you can just quickly come up with a number, a relative number anyway.
Well, what I'm finding with the market shift, because I do mostly listings, is that, because I experienced this with my dad when he sold commercial property in El Paso, he had the value of what things he thought were going for, and then he added his shop, fencing, and all of that. You can't do that. In this market, we're adjusting. So speaking to that a little bit, there are some universal truths of what a ranch should look like, but there are some that aren't.
Right. Well, it's all about what you want to do with your ranch. What is your driven goal? I mean, you know, so just for instance, in the arena, in our arena, it's 150 feet wide because we're team ropers, you know, so we need that. But if you're a calf roper, you don't need that. You don't need that much. So you probably do 100 and you'd be perfect. So it just depends on what your speciality is. If you're a barrel racer, you know, what are your grounds needs? Because they're very picky about their grounds. They're running, you know, Mach 10 and they don't want to get injured. They don't want their horses to fall with them. So it just really depends on what your personal goal is for your property.
And there are different types of buyers. There's the ones that we spoke about, you and your husband, where you do the work yourselves because you want it perfection.
Yes.
There are other people that have their livestock. They have the money, the cash. They're moving from out of state, and they will pay because you've done the work for them.
Yes, yes. Well, of course, it's much easier if everything's already here and it's move-in ready and everything's been maintained and kept up. A lot of times, when you come across some of these farms and ranches, the elderly generations have passed on, the younger generations didn't keep up with the wells, or they didn't keep up with the fencing, and now it's rusting and it's not, or the fences are sagging because the cows have pushed through them. So all of those you have to take into consideration, because if you have to re-fence a mile of fencing, well, that's not cheap either. So you have to start adding up those things real quickly, all the repairs, how much is it going to cost you, versus if you can just turnkey, walk in and bring your animals and bring your furniture and we're ready to go.
Yeah. The last time I was out here, a lot of the fencing hadn't been done. This wasn't here. The tack room is now, it's got granite, it's got cabinetry, it's got the horses' names above the bridles.
Right. I'm a little more organized, and I, but it's like I said, the longer you have something, the more that you see what you need. And so as your needs grow, then therefore your changes grow. So I needed more space for more saddles. I have more horses. So it's continual growing path.
And improvements by putting something in concrete versus what we saw was some pre-fert. That was 2016, but wasn't that round pen, wasn't it a bunch of panels that was just baling wire together?
Yes.
And you can see that immediately.
Versus somebody else that probably doesn't pick up on it. I will give you one really good tip, and it's another tax tip. A lot of times these appraisers come out or drive by because they necessarily can't come on your property, or they see it from a satellite right off the top, and they can't tell if there's concrete in your barn. Well, you've got this big barn that's, 100 by 50. They just assume that it's full of concrete. So if it's concreted in, then that tax goes up. But if it's a horse barn like this, and there's large portions that don't have concrete, that's not taxable either. So you have to really know the ins and outs of what you're being taxed for.
We're supposed to specialize and do a certain niche. And I'm a listing agent and I do probate because I don't know why.
Because that's your God-given talent to work with.
But I could never do
people.
I could never do farm and ranch because the last time I rode was on a Shetland, and it was 50 plus years ago. I think riding on a Shetland makes you a really good rider.
I think that God gives us all our individual talents and our specialties, and He gives us passions and, what you're interested in and what drives you, and all of those are your passions from God. And so to me, or your blessings even, I really think that He uses people. I'm not trying to jump off into religion here a whole bunch, but I think that we are His angels, and we do step into people's lives to be a messenger from Him. And what a greater blessing than that could be is, please use me, God. Use me to help somebody, and use the knowledge you've given me that I can help them. So to me, your blessing is being able to deal with all of those grieving people. I would be crying the whole time, so I couldn't do it. I'd be like, I'm so sorry for you, So it's your composure, you're able to handle it, where I know that you're probably not going to come pick up one of these 1,400-pound horses, Yeah.
We know, or I know now, Prefert, because you educated me on it, and that's all I know, is I can look at a panel now.
Well, Prefert's just a very good company that provides cattle chutes, they provide horse walkers, they, anything really for your farm and ranch, you can usually get through Prefert, and they are a good company, and they stand by their work. I'm giving them a free bono here, but they are amazing, and I would use them every chance I got.
So when you walk you're with buyers and you walk onto a property and you see Tractor Supply panels versus Prefert, you're already knowing.
Well, you just know the quality. It's just like, anything else. You can buy generic and I'm not saying that generic is bad. I buy lots of things that sometimes the generic is better. Like us, we try to weld everything. We try not to use panels, but we do, temporarily. Sometimes we're transitioning from temporary, and then we decided we needed it to be permanent. There you go. There's another improvement. So Prefert, they're just a great company that if you need any type of chutes for your cows or calf chutes, steer chutes, walkers, they're an amazing company.
It just goes back to the knowledge you have because you do this day in and day out.
Right.
Something temporary is meant for temporary use versus something with concrete. You're going to ensure the safety of your livestock and more functionality.
Right, for sure. You know, they can't push the panel over, you know, if it's welded in place and you're using the right fencing, and can't have goats and use 5-strand barbed wire. You know, you've got to have goat panel. All boils down to, what do you want to do with your property? Are you going to raise cows? Are you going to raise sheep? You're going to raise lambs? You're going to rodeo? I mean, you're going to team rope? You're going to barrel race? Calf rope? I mean, what are you going to do with it? And then we can go from there.
Connie, it's been a pleasure.
As always, I love you.
I love you too. It's hard to do this in front of a camera because we can't cut up like we normally do, but I just want to invite anybody that's looking to sell farm and ranch or to purchase or just have questions. Please, you can reach out to me. I'm hoping that Connie will have this on her social media and share it. Reach out to Connie because she has a passion for people and for like-minded people that love animals.
Well, thank you. And you can find me on Facebook or through Avalon Realty. Annette, I enjoyed this, and I appreciate you interviewing me today.
It's not what we started
And
to
I love
do.
your friendship, but
Yes, we make the best, and we have a great time together. So God has blessed us. Thank you.
Yes.